concrete day. I've got all these holes in here that simply wouldn't work with the auger. It's just too many rocks in them. I did dig them out with my 18-inch initially because it's got big teeth on it. Gets through the rocks better. And then I cleaned them out with my 24-inch bucket that has a smooth blade on the front. We're going to just trench pour these base footings. What I've been doing is going through each hole and just painting down the side of the hole where the alignment markings should be, so that it's the equivalent of my string lines, just for reference when I'm in there setting the sonotubes and stabbing in my rebar and stuff. So we're going to do a loose hole pour for the bottom. We're going to shoot for that 12 to 14 inches deep. The holes have a little bit of shape to them instead of being perfectly flat. So if we're 16 inches or something like that, it'll be fine too. So all I've been doing is going into each hole and marking those alignment lines, and then marking an approximate 12 to 14 inch line, so that when we're shooting the concrete in the hole, we can kind of fill to that line and then move on and know that we're deep enough. He should be here in about 45 minutes with the truck, because we're going to try to shoot all of these holes and the holes for the other building as well. As soon as we get those in, I got to stab in the rebars, and then I got to make a mad dash into the supply house to get some sonotubes. Get back here. That should give the base footing just enough time to set up so that I can set the sonotubes on and get them measured and elevation set and have them be firm enough for that to work. Then I've got to finish getting all the tubes cut to length, a little bit of dirt on them to stabilize them in the base and keep them in place. He's going to be back out here at 8 a.m. tomorrow for the tubes. That means all my prep, string lines, everything like that for those tubes have got to be ready. And on this building, I'm doing wet set bases, so we'll shoot the tubes and pull our strings again and set our post bases in place. I got to get some paint in a couple more holes, and then I've got my little L-shaped rebar that I need to kind of distribute around. That way I can just stab them into the center line and have them going in where they need to help reinforce that connection between the tube and the base footing. I'm not worried about these footings moving anywhere, but a little extra is fine with me. 2 extra inches of concrete ain't gonna hurt nothing compared to, I don't know, just the security of knowing it's set. The other thing I have to do tonight after these are poured is I've got a couple of stakes that I got a little too close with the bucket. Some of them are still secure and stable, but they're right next to the edge. So I'm sure if I pull a string, they'll just tip over and pull out. So I'm gonna need to go through and kind of remark a few stakes or relocate a few stakes so that they're stable again. And I'll probably have to pull my strings and double check my measurements and make sure that everything's still at a good layout point. Because when it comes time for those wet set post bases, it's gonna have to be pull the string, have it on, and be on. I don't have a lot of time to monkey with it to get it in place. Okay, done at this site. Let's go get the rebar in the other place and have everything ready. See if we can get all this ready tonight. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., we're gonna shoot all these tubes and set bases. All right, that's got all of my tubes cut to the elevations. So the top of tube is even all the way around, same elevation, nice and level. All these are at the right height, and it's right where I want to be. The front footings that we kind of shot originally at about an even 0 point, they're about 3 inches, 2-3 inches high from the existing road base that's really well compacted. So that gives me about another 3-inch of buildup to maintain good watershed from the front so it doesn't just run in. And back here gives me the elevation point to build this up to nice, good road base and pack it in tight up to the elevation. Now I got to go fix my string stakes, a couple of them that are blown out, get them re-established, and pull my strings, double check measurements, make sure the sonotubes are where they need to be, left to right, forward to back, according to my strings. And then I got to throw a little dirt around them to keep them in place while we start this cement. Enough in there at least to keep them from sliding or shoving one way or the other. At least if I have a full perimeter, maybe 8 or 10 inches deep all the way around, that'll keep the base in place to match up with the strings when I set my wet set bases. Now just the outside perimeters, those are the only ones that are going to get wet set anchors. These others down this center line are going to be bolt down. There's a lot more anchoring strength, and the outside walls is the thing that's going to take like wind load and shear loads and things like that. So maybe that just means it'll be more stable that way, and we can do bolt downs down here where it's just a matter of stabilizing and getting them to support the beam. So I had to take a minute and readjust this corner because a couple of these stakes blew out, and 1 or 2 of those stakes blew out. So I had to realign and get some new stakes. And then I had to have Everest come down and help me measure out so that we could get it squared up and make sure that everything was still square. We're good. I've got all the perimeter with a little bit of dirt knocked in, like 4 or 5 inches around. I haven't done the center line yet, but I've got to pull my string back and run my center string in order to get those. But I'm running out of daylight. Sun just tucked behind the mountain. I still have 12 more footings over there to measure the elevation, cut to length, and set them in. Oh, we got a bit of work to do yet before we can call it a night. Oh, and hopefully I have enough stakes, because when I laid out that building, I didn't stake them. I knew we were going to be plus or minus a few inches on the footing anyway, but I want to have at least a straight line and a couple of references, so I need a couple of stakes to pull some lines and just verify where my intersects are going to be, because I knew I didn't have stakes. So I marked past the hole and up the straight and past the hole and up like 4 or 5 feet extra. So we should be good on that one to be able to pull from paint lines and be close enough for the 18-inch sonotubes, because those are going to be referenced once they're all in the hole and all buried back. Then we're going to pull string lines and re-square our building over top of those footings. But I need them to be close enough that when we do that, our footings are where we need them to be. these are done. Got them all set down the rows. And I did steel trowel them just to kind of smooth them out nicely. I'm going to do bolt down plates with this because this is going to be the poles and beams structure here. So on the bottom of those big 3.5-inch poles, I'll have like basically like a 6-inch or an 8-inch square plate welded to the pipes, and we'll bolt them down. And you can see that the pad drops down as we get out here, and I kind of did that by design because this tends to get moisture up in here. I am going to put some drainage down that uphill side. I think what I'm going to do is just trench it out a little bit, lay in a perforated pipe and bury that up with gravel, just so that it can just seep into that pipe. It doesn't get runoff, heavy flow. It just has this constant wet trickle. So if it has a pipe to get into and get out of there and get moved on, that'll be all we need. But I'm happy with this. This turned out nice. This one has got a big steel pylon driven down in to help stabilize it because it's so deep to native. And this one has even more than that because it's also deep to native. So you can see that we ended up with a 24-inch round chunk of concrete on a pylon that's below all this, and then this footing reinforcement is poured up to the top of that 24-inch tube with the 10-foot pylon driven down into the ground. And that's all to stabilize it with some boulders. And then we've got this riser coming up, and I just didn't have enough. I needed an extra 6 inches, and I just didn't have it without getting crazy of trying to cut things together and splice them together in different ways. So I just did a 24-inch and then rimmed the top with that 18-inch, which is fine. All that's going to be buried anyway, but it's all going to come up and get up to elevation. So all this spoils is going to come out here and build up around that shoulder and be outside. I am happy, very, very happy. I can't wait to get moving on this structure so that we can get even just the poles and the skeleton up. Even if we don't get the roof up right away, we can start getting our panels and divisions so we can set our pen back up and get our hay storage situation figured out and all the arrangement and layout in here. So I'm excited for this big time. That's going to be a huge game changer for winter, having these animals up here. I've got campers for the next 2-3 days, and so that's enough time to let all this cure up before we come down in and bury it and push it off. It's progress. Looks good. Oh, okay. that's all done. Got everything restringed and got my bases in, all my wet set ones, the front and the back, and these are all down the center where they need to be for the bolt down anchors. So I'm gonna let all of this cure for a couple of days before I go burying it back. I don't want to risk bumping a tube and knocking it sideways or anything while it's still wet and curing. But it looks great. I'm happy, I'm pleased. Can't wait to start burying this up and getting this leveled out again. Get some road base on here. I'll do all that first, and that way then we've got a nice leveled out, flat, good surface area. Then we can start building. I'm up here to the shop trying to fix my auger. You can see that it broke off right on the welds, and it's completely understandable why. There's hardly any bead there. I don't know if this is the best camera for this, but you can see it's just real thin. Barely anything there. They made a bead around it, but it just isn't hardly anything welded. You can see the reverse here. Low penetration and no buildup of the bead to support the weld. So, not too big of a deal. We'll get it set back in there and line it up, straighten it up, and hit it with the old big Bobcat welder, some 7018, and burn that sucker in there for a good weld. This is actually the second auger I've had out of this set that did the exact same thing. And, you know, it's not the end of the world. No big deal. We'll just weld it up and then wait for the next weakest link to break. It's not terribly thick walled. The collet up here is like 3/8 of an inch or so. This main tube is only maybe 3/16, but it does have that alignment collar inside that's like 1/2 inch. I'm just going to use some 5/32 rod and really burn that sucker in hard. Okay, that's got that welded. Pretty sure it's not going to break there again. Most likely it'll break somewhere else when it breaks. Hopefully we don't have too many more holes to dig in the rocks, and we won't have that issue. I'm on a rush to get as many footings in the ground as I can for as many places as I can. We've got 4 building structure projects that we really want to get moving on, but it takes all this ground prep and footings to get in before we can do that. We got 2 of them up here and 2 down below. So the big equipment, covered storage, and then the other corral pen that we're covering the whole pen. Up here we've got a large coop with the run that's all covered that we're going to try to put in. And then the back of the shop, we're going to close in that we're going to build the lean-to and close in that lean-to back behind next to the propane tank and the metal gate. So we're going to go back there, and I need 3 more spot footings in place back there that don't have to be very big. It's pretty stable ground, and that's all clay and sandstone back there. But I need 3 more spot footings in there of these relatively like 12-inch size, and then we'll form up and pour the floor and footings on those to get that last little bit there so that that's ready to go. So while I'm up here, I am going to take a minute, move the tractor and stuff, and get back there and quickly auger those holes in so that I can form up the slab and have everything ready to go there as well. Okay, so I'll measure that just to double check, but that brings me a straight line with the building and a straight line with the concrete, and I'll double check my measures to make sure that we're where we need to be. Our plan initially was going to have this unpoured portion being enclosed like a wood shop, probably for the wood tools to come into. Come center line of the building out to the edge of the concrete and over here, and would be enclosed with this side lean-to eventually. So our new plan, I think, is actually better. So our roof is going to come off the back here as a lean-to, and it's going to wrap around the front porch, and there will be a lean-to off this back as well. So we'll have 3-sided apron roof all the way around with lean-to, and the front it's still going to be open porch, and then we'll wrap this corner and come across this back. So everything across the back, including the overrun to the front porch, that little kind of angled part of it, is going to be all enclosed. We are still going to divide it over here in the center line, so this portion will become a wood shop. Not a very big wood shop, but big enough. It should be somewhere around, I think, 14 by 17, something like that. This is big enough for me. I don't do enough woodwork stuff to justify more space than that designated, but it gives me a spot to keep the wood tools and have them here and put away nicely instead of in kit bags in a tool trailer on a shelf here and there and everywhere else. That'll be a nice space, and then the other half of it we're going to use for some of our plaything storage. Like, we've got a couple kayaks for going down to the lake, we've got our mountain bikes, we've got this new e-bike, we've got a treadmill and a couple of workout things that we like to use now and then. So I think what we're going to do is create that room is going to kind of create a playroom storage, I guess you could say. We'll have like a workout room in there if we want, and be able to have a bar seating on the view side, so that if we're up here doing canning and stuff, and we've got just throw dinner together in the kitchen up here, we can go in and sit over there and just have a nice little gathering point. So it'll give us a nice space. So my plan here is to just add a couple of footings, one on the corner, one in the center point, and one over here in the center point, just to help carry the load. This will have a double door, like a French door here, so that it's easy to get big materials in and out of this wood shop. So I want a post in the center line there. It's going to be kind of a hybrid framing. We'll do a traditional framing, but we'll basically do a post beam incorporated into the framed wall. That'll just simplify the framing. It'll simplify the insulation and the power and everything like that. And then we'll have the lean-to roof will be rafters down to the beam wall out here. It'll be a vaulted ceiling. We'll just use rafters, and we won't frame out a flat ceiling. We'll leave it going up high and tall. Well, all right, that's got me squared up good. I'm gonna have one footing in the center here, one here on the corner, one here in the center, and we'll get those located and painted good, and I'll pull the strings back out of the way, and I'll leave my stakes where they are. That way I can come back and set up my forms for this perimeter, and that'll be it. I'll put in a form board against the concrete there, come up to the corner and set one over here and come out to the corner, and then we'll shoot this whole floor all level and pour those spot footings while we do it. And that way then it'll be ready to go, ready to build, and we'll have the floor done as well. You can feel the difference. See that white, very light tan colored bottom? You can feel when that hits. Feel it trying to work its way through that sandy base. I set my crosshair for the hole about 3 inches in from the edge, center of wall, centered on the footing, just to try to help make it a little better. There's still a lot of material falling down there. There's a rock toward the top. It's inside it, so it looks like. Okay, one left. Okay, those are done. I'll go pull the dirt away from those and get sonotubes in them, and well, if I need sonotubes, I may not. We'll do the forms, but I think for now, we've got the auger holes done. Been pushing pretty hard on some of this stuff, and we've got this ready now for our concrete. It's going to be up here in about 45 minutes, and we're going to shoot the rest of this floor and the sidewalk around, and my little oopsie pulling of the sidewalk out over here, so we'll re-pour that little bit. He's on his way up here. He said he'd be here about 1:30, and it's 5 minutes to 1, so he should be here anytime.
Today is concrete day. I feel like every fall is concrete season. That's pretty exciting. Today is a beautiful day. It's gonna reach, I think, 80s on like around 3 o'clock. I kind of panicked because I just worked a night shift and I was supposed to get up about an hour ago, but Mark came in and reset my alarm, so I had an extra hour of sleep. But then I thought, oh no, I'm late. But that got me right up and I'm ready to go now.
I'm excited about my form. It's going to work out great.
Yeah. So Mark went in to go get a power trowel, and he was, what size were you initially thinking?
Well, last time they didn't have anything bigger than a 12-foot board, and we were pouring like 13 feet, so it was just a little bit odd. But so I was expecting a 12-footer, and then I said, kind of half jokingly, I'm like, well, unless you guys have got a 14-foot board. And he's like, actually, yeah, I think we do. Perfect. Perfect. We're 13.5 on the span, so 14.
Yeah.
Hits it nice. Makes it way faster and easier for us.
How do you feel about this step being done?
Well, it's not done yet, but we're getting there.
Well, it's more than halfway, when you say. I feel like every time we pour. It's getting easier and easier to do it, kind of like sheetrock, you know? You start getting better at it.
Yeah, you do it more, and certain parts of it get easier, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Start to figure a few things out.
Yeah, when I was shoveling today, I was like, oh, this is not, you know, felt more natural than the first time. Like, oh, I knew what I was doing. I knew how to push here and push there, scrape here, scrape there, you know.
Yep.
But I'm not by far feeling professional.
But you're definitely feeling that.
Yeah, I feel
that
what.
couple $1,000 savings, huh?
Yeah. And it still looks good, like I wouldn't have, you know. It is a little bit wet, which is kind of nice because then you can work it to make it really look nice.
Yeah, it gives me time to do it.
After hours and hours of this, Mark says that the mountain's in the way.
Better get the excavator.
And after today, because we've been working, I think, like, what, 2 weeks straight, it seems like?
Yeah, at least.
We have some family coming up, and we are going to enjoy their company, and we're going to celebrate one of my nephew's birthdays, and they're going to camp, and it's going to be beautiful weather, and we're going to take a weekend off. It's exciting to share all this with everyone.
Okay, I'm done. It's finished. It's pretty good, I think. I feel good about it. We got the little bit poured that we ripped out, so that's been re-poured. We've got the 4 feet out here is broomed, and that's because that's gonna just stay sidewalk, and we'll have a wall come right here, straight down that. And then I left all this smooth because it's gonna be interior walls. Interior floor, that's what I meant to say. That'll all be interior floor, so I left it smooth. It's a good project, and it's good to have that part in. We can clean it all up the next couple of days and get ready to start going up here too.